Halloween.
Forever.
Steve, ready? I got one for you. You ready for this?
Go for it.
H.P. Lovecraft, right, walks into a bar.
Uh-huh.
He's got a poodle under one arm
Uh-huh.
and a 2-foot salami under the other.
Okay.
The bartender says, I guess you won't be needing a drink. And Lovecraft says, this joke is so funny you couldn't understand it using 100% of your brain, and I mustn't describe it ever, dear listener. Welcome, boys and ghouls, to a very cosmic episode of Halloween is Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve. And I was just like...
You know, because, like, first of all, let me explain. And I've been told many times, the listeners love when I explain the jokes, right?
Yeah.
One, I took the joke from Breakfast Club, right? That Bender says.
Oh, okay.
And then I just said, this is what happens if H.P. Lovecraft did it, because he always says things are too scary to describe. But what if he told a joke and it was too funny to describe?
Oh.
Get what I mean there?
Not really, actually, because I've never really seen The Breakfast Club.
You've never seen The Breakfast Club?
Not all the way through.
How
Not all the way through.
dare you?
Because here's the thing. The Breakfast Club, like A Christmas Story, another film I've never watched the entirety of, was always on TNT. Always.
I was going to say, are you anti-TNT? Is that what I'm starting to get? Are you against Turner Broadcasting Network?
I'm not against it. But it's just the fact that they were always on there, and anytime I seemed to catch them, I was just caught them on like the same scene or something, a scene I already saw, and I never caught the beginning. So I never saw those movies A to B, front to back, and then eventually I just got tired of them always being in my face. I'm like, I've seen the same 5 fucking minutes over and over. I don't want it anymore.
Yeah, it is a very enjoyable movie, and it was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and I watched it a lot of times. It is a relatively, it's not a minor scene, it's a somewhat climactic scene, but John Bender, played by one Mr. Judd Nelson, is climbing through the roof, he sneaks off, and then he comes back, and they're in detention, so he's being risky, right? And as he's doing the risky stuff, he's telling himself this joke and kind of laughing to himself. And he's like, a blonde walks into a bar. She's got a poodle under, and he starts telling the joke. And then it's just as the punchline happens, he falls through the ceiling and is like, oh shit. And anyway, I don't know what the Breakfast Club connection was. It's just the idea of a joke not finishing, but then also Lovecraft doesn't. He things are too scary to describe.
Right. Yeah. It's too funny for him to, and you can't, it's indescribably funny.
You couldn't comprehend it.
Right.
Yeah. If you were to comprehend it, your brain would explode. Right. Because of the cosmic nature of its hilarity. Guys, you're welcome. Once again, I'm here to explain the jokes to you and tell you why they're funny. But guys, we got other things to take care of. Not just funny ha-has. We got spooky movies. Spooky might be a strong word. We got some movies to talk about. We also got some
horny. It's not so much spooky as it is horny.
It is horny in a problematic way at times. But here's what I'm doing, because we're going to get into all this wacky, creepy horniness. So to offset that, and listen, I got nothing against wacky, creepy horniness, but just to kind of balance that out, so I don't end up climaxing during recording, I have in the background, Steve, you'll appreciate it, one film that is a classic of the show, Punisher Warzone.
Oh, yeah.
I do have on in the background right now, just to kind of offset the horniness.
Yeah, that's definitely not a horny. That's not a horny movie at all.
No. Opposite of horny. It's just like, oh, hell yeah, brother. Yeah. And then, horniness is kind of the other side of that coin, I think. So they're going to balance each other out a little bit. It's like where you got to, hey, you had a couple beers. You want to last the rest of the day. You got to stop, have yourself a cup of coffee, right? Similar situation. If I want to last the end of this show without, like I said, coming, I want to be able to last. And so for that reason, it's like when you're trying not to finish and you go, you think baseball,
right?
Or Margaret Thatcher on a cold day, or whatever Austin Powers says in that movie or whatever. Think about something that's going to make you anti-horny. I'm just thinking about the Punisher shooting people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Just shooting
which is cool, but just not in a horny way.
Right. Yeah. Just shooting an apartment full of people. And then there's the time he punches a chair through somebody's face. And it's like, that's fucking rules, dude. But you didn't get hard for it. You're just like, fuck yeah. It's awesome.
Well, and I just started it. So he just cut that guy's head off at the table. The rich people. With a knife. Cut his head off.
The Santa sleigh beginning.
With a knife that's really not even long enough to cut somebody's head off with.
Right. That's how strong he is, bro.
He's so strong. His hair is so slicked back. All right, guys. In case you haven't wondered from the thing you clicked on, and also from how all this horny talk, we're talking about Joe Lynch's 20 and 23 film Suitable Flesh, starring just a horny cast. Boy, I mean, just heartthrobs galore. And you know what? Bruce Davison included. I ain't ashamed to say it. He's a hunk. But we'll get into all that in a couple damn old minutes here. We got a few things we got to deal with at the top of the show. First of all, it's Saturday night. Little peek behind the curtain. We're here. We're on the Discord. It's Saturday night. We're getting after some motherfucking beers. Okay. So Steve, what are you drinking on over there?
I'm back on my bullshit. I got from
there's that little glint in your eye.
Oh yeah. From Abjuration, I have their ice cream sour version 1.12.
Barf.
And it's a sour ale.
Sorry, it's enema. Ice cream sour.
Yeah, ice cream sour. It's a sour ale with honey, vanilla ice cream, cake, cinnamon, and milk sugar.
Oh, man. Something about the whole thing is like, and don't get me wrong, I love honey, but though that combination of things with like the intense floral sweetness of honey sounds so disgusting.
It's really not.
Sour honey sounds really bad. Is it good?
Oh yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I feel like you would like this one actually. 'Cause just it's a lot more muted than you would think. Mm-hmm. Like most of the flavors you get are honey and cinnamon.
Yeah,
and because it's trying to replicate honey cake dessert.
Yeah,
so it's trying to be like that honey that cinnamon honey cake with an a la mode scoop on it.
Yeah. It's I'm sure it's fine, right? I'm sure there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the name. Something about dessert sours. Again, I'm old, I'm curmudgeonly, I've been making and drinking beer for too long, and that's just not what sour beers are to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why it's just sounds off-putting. I'm sure it's lovely. I actually haven't had a lot of beers from Abjuration. I know they're over your neck of the woods. Not that we live that far away from each other, but over closer to where you live. And I really haven't had many of their beers. Mm-hmm. Not because they're not good. It's just because I don't really gravitate towards that type of beers. But I need to go branch out once again. I'll go through these spurts where I'm just like lagers and my normal shit all the time. And then like I'll get a little hankering, when the season changes, oftentimes I'll get a little hankering and go, hey, you know what? I'm going to drink some hazy IPAs. I'm going to go drink some fruited sours. And then I'll go fuck around in that business for a while. And then I'll come back and drinking laggy beers and stuff like that. But I think this year has been especially lazy because I've just been really busy with work. So I haven't really had the chance to go out and do like a lot of beer shopping.
Right.
Been doing a lot of just like go into the same local spot and just getting the same, 6-pack, 12-pack of Pilsner Cal and like some High Life or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or some fucking Keystone Light or something. And that's really what I've been doing. But
well, maybe I can convince you because for those who don't know, at the Abjuration Brewery, there's also a movie theater and they do more off the wall kind of screenings. They're more out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think they're doing like an Oscars program right now with like the Zone of Interest is playing. But on February 24th, they have a midnight screening of the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, a perennial favorite for me. Maybe I will. Go look at the calendar. Maybe go down and see some Rocky Horror thing, spank each other with paddles and shit. I've been to a lot of midnight, not a lot. I've been to several midnight showings of Rocky Horror. Always a fun trip, but never did it at a brewery. So hey, maybe I like my days of. I feel like in the last year I've aged about 12 years. I have gotten to the point where like there is a lot of nights I'm in bed by 10 o'clock, like sleeping by 10 o'clock. And the idea of a midnight movie and not getting home till like 3 a.m. is like genuinely trying to consider whether I could physically do it. I'm sure I could, guys. You get some caffeine in, you're fine. But it's been a while.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Okay. If not that, nights, I can give you one more idea. That's not midnight screenings. So they're also running a Stephen King program.
Okay, all right.
And they have 3 weekends of Stephen King, or like 3 weeks of Stephen King. And they have Misery, then they have a 35 millimeter print of Carrie, and then March 21st they have a 35 millimeter print of The Shining. Those are all 8 p.m.
Oh.
Those are all 8 p.m. So you can get that in.
It's not too bad. March 21st, day before Kate's birthday. Probably won't be able to swing that. But those are all good ones. Yeah, I need to make plans. That's a problem. If I make plans, say, hey, I'm going to go do this, and I'll go do it. But if I don't, I just go like, hey, maybe I'll check that out. Then it comes and goes, and I never do shit. So, all right. Well, here's what I'm drinking. And before you get mad at me, because you say, what the fuck, Brian? You're really drinking the exact same beer you were drinking last time? Drinking the Pilsner Kel? Here's why. I don't like to do that. But this is the perfect movie, because this movie, in a lot of ways, is the story of Stefan Urkel.
Okay.
Of Family Matters fame. For those of you who remember the 90s sitcom Family Matters, of course you remember one Mr. Steve Urkel, right? Nerdy little guy, drove a weird car that opened from the front, was in love with Laura Winslow. We all were in love with Laura Winslow. But this is the story of the real life Stefan Urkel. If you remember in the show, Steve Urkel built himself a machine a la The Fly type of machine. But when he went into it, hit a little button, bing, bang, bong, some smoke happened. He came out. He turned from this dorky little nerdy guy and talk like this and blah, blah, and had the crazy outfit and all this stuff to this hunk. And the hunk's name was Stefan Urkel. So it was Steve Urkel, but not this guy. He's sexy. It's Stefan Urkel. The character who we'll talk about a little bit more of Asa Waite in this movie, when the entity takes him over in the body swapping, he goes from this little dorky guy to straight up Stefan Urkel, and then just starts porking left and right. He goes from this insufferable little greasy haired dork to like suave, suave sex criminal Asa Waite, just at the drop of a hat. So he's a Stefan Urkel type character. So I actually had another beer lined up, and I said, I drink this beer all the time during the show, and usually I have no reason for it. This is actually a reason for drinking this beer because it plays into the theme of the movie. I
think you're stretching it, though, because in this film, we're dealing with an old god entity that swaps body to body, whereas Urkel and Stefan shared the same body. It was just a different part of his personality that he unlocked. It wasn't a new entity entering his body.
True, but from the outside perspective, it seems similar. Nerdy guy, snap of the fingers, sexy boy.
Sure. Sure.
Buttery boy. Now, all of a sudden, but, so again, listen, the episode isn't predicated on this beer. It's just I'm trying to tie in why this might make a little bit of sense. But that's all right, guys. Listen, you don't have to agree with my decision here. I'm drinking Pilsner Urquell again. There's no surprises. All right, let's get into our next order of business we got to talk about. First of all, we're going to talk about our topic for the somewhat less sucky month of March, our showdown topic. And you might be asking yourself, what the hell's a showdown? Here's what it is, guys. Listen up. Open your fucking ears. This is what happens. First Monday of every month, we have some tasty content that comes out every single Monday. And if you're a patron of ours, you get sometimes a little bonus episode we'll talk about in a second. But every Monday on the free feed, you get a new little tasty bit of content, usually in the form of a mini-sode. They're not really that many. They're like 2 hours long. But once a month, the first Monday of every month, we do what's called a showdown episode, where we have a topic that is ultimately selected from 3 topics that we put out on the social medias, on the Instagrams and the Twitters and the X's and things for our social media friends and listeners to pick from. Those 3 topics come from a topic randomizer from this big old list that we have tabulated. We pick 3, we put them on there, you vote. Ultimately, we land on 1. That topic becomes our showdown topic, wherein myself, Steve, oftentimes a guest, we will pick a movie associated with that topic. We'll talk about it. We'll argue. We'll vote. Someone will end up taking home that son of a bitchin' championship strap for the month. Steve took home that strap for the just ass month of February. He ended up getting that punishment episode last week. Steve, I blocked it out of my brain. What did we do last week for the punishment episode?
Fish piss.
Something. It was fish piss. I was forced to watch a trauma, and I'm using the air quotes you can't see unless you're in the Discord here, film called Fish Piss. I hate it. I have threatened to fight the filmmakers, and that offer still stands. Physically fight them. But now we're back on to our regular Minisode bullshit. We're going to talk about a different movie tonight. But we put out 3 topics on the social medias. If in the future you want to help us vote, or perhaps you have suggestions for showdown topics or even Minisode topics, you can send them to us. We're at Halloween is Forever, pretty much on all the social medias and the Instagram and the Facebooks. And I think we're at Hallow Forever on X, formerly known as the Twitters. And then, of course, you can check us out if you want to send us just fucking old-fashioned email. You can do that. It's HalloweenIsForeverPod@gmail.com, too. You can absolutely do that. We put this out there. Here are the topics that the randomizer chose for us. One of them actually came from one of our patrons. So we'll talk about our Patreon program here in a second. Did Dan give us that one? Was that Dan?
No, that was Ron. Ron gave us.
Oh, that was Ron. That's right.
Stuff.
That's right. Dan's joined us in the Discord. Welcome as always, my friend. Ron, one of our other patrons, suggested this. And if you want to be a patron, we'll talk about that in a damn second. Sometimes you get a little opportunity to influence the show. Ron suggested killer clowns as a topic, which is a topic that I think is probably on our wheel in some capacity. Yeah, but it hasn't come up. He suggested it. We said, hell yeah, we'll throw it in the mix of those 3. The other 2 that got chosen by the wheel was killer cars. So killer clowns, killer cars. A lot of alliteration, guys. And then gothic horror. Interestingly enough, gothic horror did pretty well, but as we expected, killer clowns, Ron's suggestion, did take it with 53% of the votes on Instagram, and it won on Twitter as well, but I don't remember what the percentage is. But we ended up with killer clowns for the month of March. So, boys and ghouls, I think, I was thinking about this beforehand, I don't think, unless you disagree, I don't think we should go with any Meg Rails. I think we just open it up. Is there anything that you're like, we really need to not do?
Here's the thing. The one that always sticks in my mind, and I know it's the one you want to pick too, is you really, really want that Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And here is my case against this, because when we put up the Meg Rails, it's not always, I mean, it's always because like we feel that film is the best, but also there's a little bit of maybe that film also deserves more time. So like when we say we're not going to do The Shining for Stephen King, I also think from producer Steve's standpoint, I also think we should just have an episode dedicated to The Shining. And I kind of feel that way. Well, I kind of feel that way about Killer Clowns from Outer Space, because we should just have an episode dedicated to that one.
Yeah.
And then that way we can be a little more, we can have a little more fun and, poke around during a showdown.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that sentiment. One thing I would say is this. Normally the Meg Rails are because there's this clear winner in terms of the quality of the movie. Jaws is a shark movie is the prime example we always give. I don't know that most people would just immediately forego and say Killer Clowns from Outer Space is the best. Like, I think most people, when you think clown movies, are going to say it. Right?
Yeah, I guess, but like, because so you have the 90s It, which is more of a TV miniseries, isn't it? It's a little longer, right? Miniseries. And then the one from 17 is a 2-parter. So it's like, that's the other thing I don't know if we really want to bother with, is like, do we really want somebody picking It Part 1 and then somebody else picking It Part 2? Well,
yeah, I mean,
I don't think that would happen, because I'll just be straight up honest. I don't like It 17 that much, either parts. So
yeah, I like it, but I wouldn't pick it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'd want to pick Killer Clowns, but then also I have a couple other clown business that I might pick as well.
Yeah, I feel like I'm also just I'm just trying to influence us to all go into the Tubi depths, because there's so much clown content.
You are. Yeah, you want to go clown NATO and that sort of thing, which is also fun. But like, I would be okay with tabling Killer Clowns from Outer Space as long as we agree as a whole. And also, I don't know this for sure. I feel like the spirit of Ron's wanting to add that is so we talk about Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, we could also just promise Ron, like, hey, we'll do, because we have clown content coming up next week too, in a sideways fashion. We'll be talking clowns for a bit. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just trying to get us to dive into the clown depths of Tubi, because like there's just so much clown stuff on Tubi.
Well, as long as we all agree, and in a gentleman's agreement, to in the coming, let's say, month to 6 weeks, we promise ourselves that we are going to designate an entire minisode, 4.5 hours. I'm just kidding. An entire episode to Killer Clowns from Outer Space, because it is a top 10 movie for me. I love it so much. I want to talk about it forever. I'm looking at all my Killer Clowns memorabilia. I want to get my gun out, my blaster, and put on makeup and just get wacky with it.
Yeah.
So as long as we agree to do that, I am okay with putting up that Meg Rail.
So let's just call, it's March Clownness.
Yeah, it really rolls off the tongue.
You're right.
March Clownness.
So we'll start the month with Dan is saying we suggest that we just change the showdown to Killer Tubi Clowns. Just Killer Tubi Clowns.
Tubi Clowns or not Tubi Clowns? That was the question.
But we started off.
I'm okay.
We started off with the Clown Showdown, and then the last episode of the month will be the Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
There we go. Okay. All right. Okay. We got clown. We got to do something better than March Clownness.
March Clownness.
So stupid, so bad. We'll come up with a better name for March, but March will be the March of the Clowns, or I don't know. We'll come up with something. I like it. Now it's making me look forward to a month that otherwise is designated only to filthy illiterate Irish locusts. So let's stick with clowns for March. I like that. I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board on what clown movie I want to talk about. I've got a couple that I really like. One I do think is probably going to be on your radar, Steve. So I'm gonna have to get it back up. Okay, guys, tune in next week where we announce our movies. For the March of the Clowns, or whatever the fuck we're going to call it. One more quick thing before we jump into this movie. We alluded to the Patreon and our lovely patrons on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/Halloween is forever, you could subscribe. Steve, tell them what options they have over there and what they get if they become a Patreon subscriber to Halloween is Forever.
Yeah, so if you come over Patreon, we have our very own Clown Town happen over there. But we got
come
two
on
levels.
Over Patreon way. Yep. Come on over. We're clowning around.
We got 2 levels. The first one is just kind of an introductory preview level. You can just kind of get in there, get a feel for what's going on, see a couple of the reviews that go up. You see some of the other posts. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get an episode early. Things like that happen. Mm-hmm. Or you jump on, you go to the Rascal tier. That's the day number one. That's the premium stuff, but it's only $5. Yeah. And with that $5, you get all the stuff on the other tier. You get the extra votes in the polls. You get on the Discord, which means you can be here live. You can get in the chat. And you be in the chat. You can be suggesting things for March. You can be telling us what the name for March is going to be. All of that. Oh, yeah. You're just, what if it's Clown Mania?
Yeah. Ooh, Clown Mania.
Yeah.
March Clown Mania.
Yeah.
I like March Clown Mania.
Clown Mania.
That's got a certain ring to it.
So you get all that. And then you also get the monthly exclusive podcast, Family is Forever. That's also in that $5 tier.
Yeah. This is where Steve has tricked me into watching if you'd have told me a year ago, said, Brian, within the next year, you were going to watch every single one of the Fast and the Furious movies, I would have said, you shut your goddamn dirty whore mouth. But here we are. And I have watched 8 or 7.
You've watched 7. We're going to do 8
I've
soon.
watched 7. We have 3 left, 7 down, 3 to go. They're so bad. They're so stupid. But the podcast is very funny because we just talk about how dumb the movies are. If you like the movies, if you were not provided enough oxygen in the womb, or if your mom was a drinker when you were in utero, and you really like those movies, you're probably going to like it because we talk a lot about them. Or if you're just like a regular person and you understand how stupid they are, you'll like to hear us, ripping on them and talking about how dumb they are. But it's fun. Either way, you're going to enjoy it. It's a lot of fun to talk about them. It is doing irreparable damage to my personal and professional life.
Yeah.
I will say that. Dan just mentioned something about that in the Discord, which you could be a part of if you're on Patreon. But he's right in that we kind of failed at doing the science for this experiment because we should have had you taking IQ and cognitive tests before you started these films. Yeah.
And then after we finish the 10, we see where your brain is, see if they actually do like real harm. And then we could have gotten them taken off the market if we could prove that.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Well, I will say this. I've been doing a little something on the side, Dan, where I've just been going to the doctor periodically because I've been having, panic attacks and the psyop has taken over my brain. And just to give you a little bit of insight into what's happening for me, I've developed a heart murmur and I have diabetes. And I'm pretty sure both of them are associated with the Fast and the Furious franchise. Now, I will say they do, like, all joking aside, deliver like a certain amount of just, I don't want to say stress, but just like, even the word dread sounds dramatic, but like, I'm like, it's the second half of February. and I haven't taken my medicine this month. And I'm like, damn it, I gotta fucking watch, because it's not like I'm watching an 80 or 90 minute movie.
No,
they're all 2.5 fucking hours long.
Yeah, you're watching like a modern epic.
Oh my God. So I really do genuinely dread it. And I've got 3 left. And here's the good thing. Yeah, I'm catching a little bit of the Discord chat here. Luckily, we are now at the point in the franchise where Paul Walker is dead, which makes me happy that I'm not going to have to see his stupid fucking face or his piece of shit acting anymore, because he is the worst part of. No, he's not. He's honestly not. He's so bad, and I hate him. But this franchise has twisted and contorted in such a way to make Vin Diesel maybe the worst human being on the planet. Like, I hate Vin Diesel with a passion now, especially because of like the last like 3 movies of the 7. So if you want to hear this, it really gets deep and it gets dark, guys. If you want to hear me really puke my guts out about the Fast and the Furious franchise and the harm that it's done to me personally, go on over to patreon.com/Halloween's Forever. $5 a month, right? It's like buying us not even a beer, right? To split between the 2 of us. It's like Steve and I sharing a beer, 2 straws, old, like a dang old soda shop style. $5 a month gets you a lot of cool stuff over there, including the Discord and that bonus episode and reviews and all types of stuff. Okay, let's get into this son of a bitchin' movie. We are talking, like we mentioned, that hilarious joke at the top of the show, a little Lovecraftian horror, which I am always a fan. Did we end up doing, I know it's come up on the wheel before, Steve, have we done a Lovecraftian horror showdown?
I feel like we haven't, because it's definitely come up on the wheel, but we haven't, because I probably would have picked the Color Out of Space, the recently released one, had we done it.
That's a good one. Yeah, I just remember having a conversation about some of them. I think you're right. Maybe at least once, if not twice, it's come up in the wheel, but it hasn't actually come up. Have you read a lot of Lovecraft, Steve? I know a lot of these things are in the zeitgeist, but have you read a lot personally?
I've read a good amount, because I have like just one of those big compilation paperbacks. But I haven't read this specific story it's based off of. Yeah.
Coincidentally, this is completely unplanned. I did read this story like within the last couple of months, and I actually read a lot of Lovecraft like in college, and then maybe like 10 years ago went back and revisited some of his stuff, and then just in the last 2 months, coincidentally, I've read like 2 pretty large compilations of Lovecraft stories, including At the Mountain of Madness, Shadow over Innsmouth. Oh yeah. I've seen that one.
Yeah, I just remembered I have this one sitting in my office. It's the blood curdling tales.
Yeah,
compilation.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, there's so many different compilations. I read 2 different compilations that had probably 12 to 15 stories each, and one of them, this one was called out, which this one, if I recall, was somewhat shorter compared to like I said, Shadow over Innsmouth, At the Mountains of Madness, Call of Cthulhu. Those are like almost novella length. You're talking 60 pages, let's say, give or take. I don't remember for sure, but I want to say The Thing on the Doorstep was like less than 20 pages. Like, this is a true short story. But I read a lot of short stories, and so H.P. Lovecraft, perhaps the biggest influence in short form weird fiction in history, right? Almost in a lot of ways, kind of pioneered the subgenre. The Thing on the Doorstep is a classic kind of body swap type of tale. There's some other, obviously it plays into the entire Lovecraft mythos There's a lot of like reoccurring characters. You have, Miskatonic University, and Arkham, and all these like towns and places and entities that kind of permeate the entire world of Lovecraft. This movie rather, I read was supposed to be Stuart Gordon's. I don't want to say supposed to be, but would have likely been, if for, probably no COVID or a couple of, maybe another year or so, would have been another, or perhaps his last project, meaning Stuart Gordon's last project. Mm-hmm. Stuart Gordon, one of my all-time favorite directors, known for Lovecraft adaptations, of course, Reanimator, a really, really big one. And
Dagon,
probably his most Dagon. I love that you mentioned Dagon before, From Beyond, because I love Dagon. That's a Shadow over Innsmouth. The freaking frog people, fishy frog people. Yeah. I forget what they're called. The race of fishy frog people is like a reoccurring thing in the Lovecraft mythos, but the town of Innsmouth and the god Dagon, and then whatever the hell it's not like the great god Pan or something like that. Isn't that the female entity that is like the counterpart to Dagon? I forget. There's a lot of recurring characters and old gods and wild shit in the Lovecraft universe. But this was supposed to be a Stuart Gordon flick, and then of course we lost Stuart Gordon in 2020. Was it 2019 or 2020?
It's 2020.
Yeah. And this project kind of fell to the wayside. And then, from what I understand, and I don't know how much marketing this is versus how much reality it is, but Joe Lynch and a bunch of Barbara Crampton, who is a Stuart Gordon reoccurring performer, and even Jeffrey Combs was tied to this for a period of time, but ended up having some sort of scheduling conflict. Kind of brought this to fruition. Was like, we need to make this happen. And instead of it being obviously Stuart Gordon's work, it's going to be almost a love letter or tribute to Stuart Gordon. So again, I don't know if that's the angle that was pitched when they pitched to producers or what, or studios, but that's kind of the way it was packaged up.
Yeah. And you can definitely feel that like what Joe Lynch is doing is pretty much all in homage to both Stuart Gordon and just 90s like horny sleaze films.
Yeah.
So,
like erotic thriller type 80s and 90s movies.
Yeah. Like even Brian Yuzna serves as an executive producer on this film.
Did he?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. I didn't even look it up.
Yeah. So I mean, he's still, Brian still had his ties to the film, which he's also been the producer of a lot of other Stuart Gordon films, as well as just fucking insane films from his own directing.
Yeah, and Lovecraft adaptations too.
Yeah.
Right? He's been kind of almost I don't want to say a protege, but probably of Stuart Gordon in that way. Joe Lynch, some really fun movies. I'll be honest, haven't seen a ton of his movies, but I guess I've probably seen 4 or 5. Between this one, I did watch the Creepshow series, of which he directed 4 episodes. I don't remember which ones he did off the top of my head. Like I'm terrible with titles and connecting them to stories, but I would have to go in and look and see if I saw those ones. I pretty much watched the whole series so far, I think. So, but love that series. Mayhem, which was a really fun movie from 2017. We did that on
a Showdown, I believe. I think that was a movie Meg picked on a Showdown.
Yeah, I remember us talking about it. Mm-hmm. Really fun movie. Really, really fun, wild, fucking chaotic movie. I think the only other thing that I've seen from him, which we coincidentally talked about recently, is he did the zombie Zom-B segment of Chillerama from 2011. Mm-hmm. We talked about Chillerama being a really silly, fun, kind of intentionally schlocky. Oh God, why am I blanking on the word?
Anthology.
anthology, Jesus Christ, anthology movie from 2011. So
that's what Fast and the Furious movies do to your brain.
They really have taken a toll. They really have taken a fucking toll on my brain. I'm sure drugs and alcohol have as well, but yeah, but not have you seen some other movies on here that you can vouch for that I should check out Joe Lynch wise? Because I'm looking at the ones I've watched. I'm like, I like all of these movies. I really should check out some of these other ones. Not that he has an enormous amount of directing credits, but any of these other ones,
like I vaguely remember Wrong Turn 2, and I remember like not completely hating it. I mean, just that genre of film isn't like totally up my alley all the time. And then he directed The Knights of Badassdom, which is, it's a funny, silly kind of, like, I don't want to say ripoff because I don't remember the timing, but do you remember that, like that Paul Rudd, I forget who his partner is in that film, but like they're doing the LARPing and everything.
Oh yeah. It's oh gosh, I remember it because it's got the little kid actor in it,
yeah,
and then it's got the guy from American Pie.
Oh, Sean William Scott. That's what. Yeah,
Sean William Scott. Yeah, and they're like that actually is a fairly funny movie, but it's goddamn, what's it called? Role Models.
Okay, yeah, Role Models. So. Like this film is,
I think, right? That's it.
Yeah. So Knights of Badassdom, I feel like it came out around the same time. And this is where I was getting confused because Steve Zahn is in this movie. And I, for some reason, was trying to put Steve Zahn in this Sean William Scott role of Role Models. But it's all, like it's all in that same vein of like we were making like a lot of LARPing films back in the early 2010s for some reason. So
yeah.
But I mean, this one isn't bad either. And this one is much more along the lines of it starts as LARPers having to actually take on demons from hell. So it has like horror elements to it, and it has like a horror adventure. What was that other one that had like Danny McBride and James Franco in it, and then Natalie Portman in a metal bikini? The fuck was that other one? But it goes in the same line.
I can think. Yeah, all I can think of is This Is the End or whatever that one.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, there's a handful. There's a handful of fucking LARPing D&D comedies out there.
Yeah. I will also say, as a complete side note, guys, go check out Punisher Warzone. I forgot. This fucking movie. The bad guys in this movie are Dick Tracy level, and I love it. All right, let's get back to. I'm just watching the background. I'm like, God, I forgot the scene where he just starts just destroying mirrors. He just gets mad at mirrors.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, we're just gonna periodically throughout this episode drop in on me watching Punisher Warzone, and I'm just going to continue to pitch that movie. Watch that instead of Suitable Flesh, you guys. No. This was I don't know. I'm interested to see what you think because I had mixed feelings on it. I think went in with relatively high expectations because people seem to fucking love this movie.
Yeah, I'm all in on it.
I wouldn't say I'm all in on it. I liked it. I'll probably watch it again. And maybe I'll like it more, but I feel like I expected more for whatever reason from it. But getting back to the story, so this is based on a story called The Thing on the Doorstep, relatively short H.P. Lovecraft short story about body swapping, and particularly using body swapping not in a Freaky Friday, this is wacky, we're in the same boat kind of way, more in a victimizing, almost vampiric type of preying on the public type of way. Almost like the host, jumping from body to body, and there's some specific rules around it and that sort of thing. In the movie, at least, I don't recall that there was that much of that. It was a lot more cryptic in the short story, if I recall. Yeah. Does have a lot of those 80s and 90s vibes, so much so that I'm interested to hear your take on this. Let's run down the performers first, and then I want to talk about the performances because I am torn on whether I like some of these or don't. So you have, first of all, great cast. First of all, I mean, 3 of these 4 people, like not a big cast by any stretch of the imagination, but the first three I'll mention are all people that like, I'll watch a movie just because they're in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Heather Graham is the first one. So Heather Graham plays Dr. Elizabeth Derby, nod to the character in the story, the name Derby. She's great, and I like her in almost everything, and I will typically watch something just because Heather Graham is in it. My gal, Babs, Barbara Crampton. My love for her knows no bounds. I'll watch anything with her in it. She plays Dr. Daniela Upton, right? I'll be honest with you, right off the bat, no surprise, wanted more Babs. Would have liked to see more Babs in this one. She's not in it enough. And then I'll jump away from the other kind of lead and talk about one Mr. Bruce Davison. Love this guy. We've talked about him on the show before. He plays a super pivotal role, albeit a somewhat smaller role, as Ephraim Waite. And then we have Judah Lewis, who is a guy who I've seen before. Definitely recognize his face. I don't know that I've seen him in anything, but I feel like he's in a lot right now, and he's kind of very much up and coming. Maybe he's more established than I thought, but I feel like as a fucking approaching 40-year-old person, I'm like, oh yeah, that's one of them new kid actors. He's like fucking 25 probably, but he plays Asa Waite. Oh, so this is what I know him from right off the bat: Christmas Chronicles. So my kids love Christmas Chronicles and Christmas Chronicles Part 2. That's what he's from. So that's what I recognize him from. I think what most people probably know him from is the Babysitter, the Babysitter from 2017, and the Babysitter Killer Queen from 2020. At least genre folks. And then I also did see him, although I don't remember what character. He's much. Yeah, okay, I remember now. He in Summer of '84, which is I guess it gets some love, but is not really talked about that much, and is a really well acted, if not a little bit predictable movie. And that's all I've seen him in. But yeah, he is, a young up and coming talent. I would go as far as to say.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen him in the Babysitter series of films, the two of them, and he's fine in those movies. I mean, I think obviously the standout is Samara Weaving in those films, but I think he does a really good job in this film with what he's asked to do, because essentially, because we're dealing with a body swap film, obviously everybody has to play 2 to 3 to maybe even 4 characterizations of, they have to play the character as the character. They have to play themselves when they're possessed by other people. So Judah has to do it 3 times because he has to do it as himself. He has to do it when he's possessed by the Bruce Davison character, and then he has to do it when he's essentially swapped with Heather Graham. So
yes,
yeah, and I think he does a good. I think he does a good job with that.
I think he does too. I really liked his performance. I thought it was convincing. I thought it was campy when it needed to be. I really liked him, and it's difficult because, and I'm saying this like a little bit tongue in cheek, but perhaps only like 40%. He's setting him he's got the card stacked against him because he's got that young guy heartthrob face and haircut,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like super handsome baby face-ish type of guy, but he's got that he looks like if he was born 20 years earlier, he would have definitely been cast in Cruel Intentions. He's got that look to him, you know?
He was just too young to hit the Twilight series.
Yes. Yeah. He is 2020's, what's something Ryan Phillippe.
Okay.
kind of thing.
Yeah. Ryan Phillippe. What's the kid who was in that movie that was filmed in Pittsburgh? It's like Taylor Lautner or whatever.
Taylor Lautner is the Twilight, one of the Twilight guys.
Yeah. I just remember his because he did a film in Pittsburgh, and it was supposed to be his big vehicle because it was his first starring role outside of Twilight, and it's just I don't know the kid that well or anything, but it's just he just has dumb face. He's like, I'm jacked and I have dumb face, and it's like, please take me seriously. It's like, sorry, we can't, bro. You have dumb face.
We can't. He has dumb face for sure. You know what though? I will say this now. Who's the other guy who plays opposite him, who was in The Lighthouse and all that?
Robert Pattinson.
And played Batman. Robert Pattinson. So Robert Pattinson, I don't think it's even fair to talk about them in terms of level of acting talent. Robert Pattinson is like genuinely a fucking amazing actor.
Right.
And the other guy, like, I think is questionable at best. I would even go as far as to say I think this Judah Lewis is probably on a different level of acting as Taylor Lautner.
Yeah.
But Taylor Lautner, if he was really a great actor, it could stand out, but he's not. So it didn't.
But I mean, I'm just saying, like, when we think of like the Twilight series, or at least when I do, I think everybody in that series is just fucking dumb face. And then it took these other movies, to like separate them. And then like now you can actually.
It turns out like actually a lot of them are really good.
Right. And you can you can appreciate
wild, but.
You can appreciate Robert Pattinson, and you can appreciate Kristen Stewart with all the crazy things they're doing. So like this Asa White, he has, or not Asa White, the Judah, he has Twilight dumb face, but now he's doing things to like separate himself. So he's like doing himself a good service by like playing these weird roles. And it's like, oh great. Like you're not just going to be like you're just not going to be like a beefcake kid, even though he's like beefcake in this movie.
He is a little beefcakey, but he's like a slinky, creepy beefcake.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you can get away with it. He's not a baby face,
He's problematic beefcake.
Yeah, he's a heel beefcake,
right.
Which is like ultimately I think is a safer play. Anyway, really liked his performance. So he's my favorite. Bruce Davison, I think plays it really. He's just kind of a treat every time you see him on screen. I love him. So those two, Judah Lewis's performance and Bruce Davison's performance as Asa and Ephraim Waite, the father and son, are really, I want to say over the top, but they are big performances.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A performance that you could see, God, this movie needs some Jeffrey Combs in it. But if Jeffrey Combs was in this, he would fit right in with those performances.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's like
on the other,
would he play Ephraim, or would he maybe play like that detective and have maybe a little bit of a bigger role if he was the detective?
I could see that. I could also see him playing. Yeah, he probably would have played Bruce Davison's character, and they would have aged him up a little bit. Even though he's probably similar age as Bruce Davison, but like he can play younger. Bruce Davison is just, looks a little older. Right. I don't know how close they are in age actually, but Jeffrey Combs can kind of play up and down in terms of age, I think better. I would imagine he would be in that role if I had to guess. Mm-hmm. Heather Graham is obviously the big kind of star power here, but Heather Graham and Barbara Crampton, especially Barbara Crampton for genre film fans, carries a lot of weight. Why did they, aside from the fact they're doctors, they have these very stilted at times clinical performances? And I get the idea, especially the fact that Heather Graham's character is going from, her body being taken over. It makes sense for her to be really clinical and kind of stilted and straight-laced when she's herself, so that there's a bigger contrast when somebody takes over her body. But it almost plays as like, oh God, he just shot the guy out of the air with the fucking rocket launcher. I gotta bring that up, guys. That's your update for this 10-minute span here. We got some Punisher Warzone. He shot the guy out of the midair who was doing a flip with a rocket launcher, and then shot a guy between the eyes and then blasted the guy's knees out. It's so good. Anyway, it just the stilted nature of their performance felt really dissonant compared to Judah Lewis and Bruce Davison, especially in the scenes they were together with Asa Waite and Dr. Derby. So I'm switching back and forth between the characters and the actors, but Judah Lewis and Heather Graham together, it made sense because he's trying to seduce her, he's trying to get her out of her shell, that sort of thing. But I don't know, I don't know if it's a directing thing, but it made for boring dialogue at times.
Yeah,
me.
I think it's fair to say that it's a little boring when Heather Graham and Barbara Crampton are just kind of going back and forth with doctor speak and kind of like the we're besties type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that's the point, like when it swings, because when it does swing, it swings wild and it becomes so weird and upsetting. And I think a lot of what people are missing with this film is how dedicated this film is to being a 90s erotica throwback. Like, it is so important to that film, and it's so important to understanding those movies of the past of not just like Species, but I mean, you had to watch fucking Cinemax. Like, if you didn't watch, like if you've never seen a Kira Reed or Shannon Tweed film, this might go over your head. You have to know that little bit of horny.
I really think it went over a lot of people's heads too, like with reviews, and I like that entity. Like I like that element of it because it felt like something I had never watched before. Like I've watched those types of movies before, but this felt like the first time I watched somebody doing a characterization of those types of movies or a tribute to those types of movies. So for that reason, it felt very fresh and dissonant and unpredictable for that reason. So that really got me psyched up. Like the way it was shot early on, it's shot in this very flat, low budget Cinemax way, straight to Cinemax type of way, right?
Flat,
or straight to VHS type of way.
Super bright, super soft focus. Super soft focus.
It just
everywhere.
Feels like you're in a fucking I would say it feels like you're in a fucking dentist office half the time.
Yes, and like that's. I mean, it's all. I can understand if people don't like that, but also that's the point. Like if you're paying tribute to Stuart Gordon and horniness, and like From Beyond is a lot of this. Like From Beyond is like a lot of soft focus horny. So but you have to understand the language of what he's doing. Like the biggest giveaway to this film that they're doing something that you may or may not understand why they're doing it is the iris wipes. Nobody fucking uses iris wipes except for George Lucas. So
I was gonna say the transitions like are pure camp.
Yeah. So like that should be your biggest clue. It's funny we're talking about this week, and then like just earlier on Twitter, the debate about like is Starship Troopers satire or whatever came up again. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's like there's so many clues in there that should make you more curious about the film. Like when Neil Patrick Harris shows up basically dressed as an SS officer, and there's all the little interstitials that Verhoeven puts in that are like, I'm doing my part. Would you like to know more? That's all like Nazi propaganda stuff that should make you more curious to look into, what is this all about? In this film.
Yeah, that's the wink. That's the wink and the nod.
Right. Yeah, that's the hard wink. That's the one that really is like, and then you can, in case
you haven't got it.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
But like there's somehow that movie's from 1997 and people still haven't got that it's a fucking fascist parody.
Yeah.
But with this film, the hard wink to the audience is that there's iris wipes. And then that should be your clue to go, oh, wait, is this doing something else? And then you think you learn about it. You know, if you don't know about it, you learn about it and you go, oh, we're doing fucking Skinamax erotica is what this is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's weird because I think this is what throws people off. And the reason that these are the reasons we're talking about. These are the reasons I like the movie. We haven't really got to the reasons that I not that I don't like the movie. I actually do. I did really enjoy it. I just felt a little let down at points by it, I guess. But I think this got really marketed as a Lovecraft cosmic horror when it should have been, this is a late 80s, early 90s to mid 90s erotic thriller Stuart Gordon thing.
Yeah.
But I can see why that is so much less marketable than saying cosmic horror, because you have all these movies, this, Color Out of Space, and like it's all of a sudden very fashionable to do Lovecrafts again.
Yeah.
You've got Lovecraft Country, you've got like 5 or 6 different like significant properties. You keep hearing that they're going to do something around at the Mountains of Madness again.
Mm-hmm.
Lovecraft is so hard to do because of the incredible abstract nature of his the way he describes characters, and like the fact that so much of it, and this is part of the reason why I love and hate reading Lovecraft, is I will get bored during Lovecraft stories quite often. Like he for me is the definition of like purple prose.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, bud, we have done 2 pages of you describing just how eerie this countryside is. Like, come on, just get it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically Lovecraft was trying to do Poe as a insufferable nerd.
Right.
Like that's and it just doesn't flow in the same way that Poe does. And Poe, like you could argue, is like, now that was a little bit more of the time, but in his always French influence and stuff was very purple prose, incredibly amount of description, so much just breaking down every little visual. Some people love that. I like it to a certain extent, but get bored of it at times too.
Yeah.
If they would have described this as 1990 erotic thriller Stuart Gordon tribute, I think expectations would have been set better.
Yeah. But yeah, you don't necessarily pull in the same audience as you do with just saying Lovecraft, cosmic horror. I think it's also...
Well, the thing is, you don't get those landscapes and all that crazy monolithic esoteric shit in this movie. You just don't get it.
Right.
You get the only thing that screams Lovecraft, besides some of the themes, is some fucking pictures of Necronomicon shit, and a reference to Miskatonic University and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then there's like a banner with a Shoggoth fucking drawn on it. It's also just kind of worth like thinking about Lovecraft as a writer in the way of thinking about that first film of the train coming towards the fucking screen. Like in the 1900s, what Lovecraft was writing was horrific to those people.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
oh yeah, they were like, people were pissing themselves, fainting, reading it.
Somebody read about a Foggy Glen and shit their pants. They're like, I can't go any further.
You tell me that's a fucking crab with wings? Fuck you, piss their pants.
Yeah.
Guys, quick update. He just punched through a kid's face who was doing coke. So great. But and then shotgunned a guy from point blank range.
But you needed a fainting couch to fucking read Lovecraft in the early 1900s, because you would you would catch a spell and fucking lay down and go, oh, this book, I can't anymore.
It's giving me the vapors. But and I get it, like it's a fucking 100 years old, right? But they don't really deliver on any of those promises in this movie. Like this is almost like a fucking chamber piece. You know what I mean? It's a couple of people, they're in the now we get some great gore. Which I don't know. Do you want to go through the plot of this movie? Like, do we want to go through a little bit closer plot points? We can kind of high level some of it, I guess.
I mean, I feel like if you know the story, I feel like the audience already understands that we're just kind of talking body swap stuff, and that it's just like you're going from one person to another. So I don't know that we need to go too in depth to it. Like, it's not
sure.
Again, it's not that much about the story per se, as it is just about like the set pieces and the way they filmed it.
Well, and I think if you really, I just saw it the one time, and full disclosure, we decided to do this movie this week, and I'd already watched the movie, so I didn't take my normal notes, and I went through and I found a plot synopsis, but I didn't take my normal notes that I normally take. But I will tell you, just from watching it kind of casually and drinking some beers, actually I ate mushrooms. And watch this just a little tiny guy. just a little tiny guy, just enough where at the end when they do the spinning camera thing, I was like, whoa. So I was a little disoriented by that. By the time that came in, like I probably ate one like honestly probably like 40 minutes before I started the movie. So like right as I started the movie or a couple minutes after is when I started to feel the effects. And then by the end I was like, wow. Which is great for the climax. The climax of this movie is the best part.
Yeah. You go into the washing machine and everything is shaking and everything is bloody.
Yeah. Well, so, and this is movie, especially the last sequence is like Shell Game, the movie. Mm-hmm. So as any good body swap horror would be, like there's a question as to who's in what body. The one thing I really wish, and jumping forward to like where I wish they did more. The cool thing for Lovecraft for me is not the descriptions of fucking, the crumbling walls of Innsmouth. Like, that's cool. I like that. That's fine. It goes a little long at times for me. I grew up reading King, where it's like bing, bang, bong. Mm-hmm. Like, let's fucking tell a story. It's character driven. Whereas Lovecraft is, like I said, it's this purple prose. It's very like, let's describe
vibes
the
driven
texture of the walls of Innsmouth for 9 years. But so the thing that I love about Lovecraft is the description of the really esoteric, wild ideas. When Lovecraft gets wacky and starts describing flying crab creatures, I'm like, the fuck, bro? We're talking about goddamn flying crab creatures. And like in this instance, we have some sort of entity that has been jumping from body to body for millennia. But we barely get into it.
Right.
All we do is you have Ephraim, who's Asa's father, so Bruce Davison's character, starts out with the entity in him. He transfers to other people by just saying some words, which is like, I feel like you got to do something, like at least cut your hand and wipe it on their face or something. But you just got to say some words literally into the telephone. That's all you need. And then you can swap bodies with them. But if you do it 3 times, then it's permanent. So it's him jumping from bodies throughout history. He says that he's been doing it forever and he's experienced all this stuff and time means nothing to me because I've existed for so long. That stuff's cool.
Yeah.
Tell me more of that.
Okay.
But they don't.
No. I think this is where I like it because this film is actually kind of similar to The Thing in that we are thrown into a situation. And I like films that have this kind of hook to it too, where we're thrown into a situation and we have our protagonist. And our protagonist can stop what's about to happen very, very early on. So like in The Thing,
they could shoot the dog.
Shoot the dog. In The Thing, if you shoot the dog, none of that happens. In this film, if you just, like let Asa kill his dad or help Asa kill his dad, none of this happens. Or you
stick a knife in his brain and it's over. Yeah.
Or more to the point, like you just don't even help him, like, get his fucking heart medication. Don't get his heart medication. Yeah. Don't let him survive the heart attack. And then everything's fine. So like, I like that. And it's just a protagonist thrown into a thing rather than us getting like this kind of sweeping backstory of like, oh, here's when I was, an Assyrian and here's during the Babylonian ages where I fucking switched over, it's like, like I know that's fun, but also I don't need it.
See, that's the stuff I like is like, well, so first of all, like The Thing is perhaps the most famous Lovecraftian horror movie of all time. Like The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing is straight Lovecraft.
Right.
It's part this story, it's part At the Mountains of Madness, and it's part Shadow Out of Time. So like those are really like what I think probably a whole host of it, but it's a very Lovecraftian story. I want to know, speaking of Shadow Out of Time, like I want to know oh, so you went back and went to all the Lovecraft spots? You went to fucking the hills of West Virginia. You went to the Arabian Desert. You went to the fucking South Pole. You went to all the Lovecraft. You went to fucking Innsmouth or whatever. Red Hook. Like you went to all the mystic sites and read the mystic books that are the through lines or the fabric that is woven into all the people who get tied up into Lovecraftian stories. Instead, it's just like, I'm a guy. I always been this guy. And I'm just going to keep doing this guy's stuff. It's fine, but like, make it special. If you're going to market it as something like Lovecraftian, like give it the Lovecraft.
So
secret spice. Put the Lovecraft version of Lowry seasoning on this, you know?
So you're more upset that the entity or the Shoggoth or whatever it is we're dealing with here isn't as interested in trying to like, it doesn't have bigger plans beyond just coming. Like that's his big his big plan. It's like, I'm a bust nuts.
You've been doing this for thousands of years and all you're trying to do is burst nerds.
Yeah,
like,
that's all he's trying to do.
You don't have any type of, you're not trying to ascend. You're not trying to do obviously part of his thing is like, he's also like the feeling of power of overcoming a new body. And obviously he's been doing it for thousands of years, but this is the first time he did it with a pretty lady.
Yeah.
So you're like, that was just kind of lame. Like, cause he even says like, I don't remember what gender I was born.
Right.
Like I think that I was born a man. I feel like I was born a man, but I've been doing this so long that I actually don't even remember what my original gender was.
Yeah.
And that was kind of cool. I was like, oh, cool. So you've been like doing this motherfucking thing for a minute. But then for him to go, I just popped into this horny 22-year-old heartthrob body. Hell yeah, brother. Been trying to get this done. Then let's go into this 55-year-old woman. Why now? And then he acts like this. He's like, this body is exquisite. And it's like, is it? Like, listen, no disrespect to Heather Graham, she's gorgeous, but like, why were you so eager to, after this whole plan whatever of like jumping from this old man's body who obviously was like sick and all this stuff, it just didn't check out. Why was it so hard? It actually seems really easy to jump from body to body, especially if you've been doing it for thousands of years. I feel like I just learned about this 40 minutes ago and like, this seems pretty easy. Like, I feel like I got it. So for you to then, spend all this time finally getting into the son's body, and you could argue like he's just toying with him, right? He's just got a fish on the line and he's just bobbing him.
Right.
But then why is he so eager to get into, have you really never been a woman and like, fuck dudes before in thousands of years? You
just forgot.
You just were like, what if after 10,000 years of jumping bodies, maybe I should do some gay shit? He's like, hell yeah, brother, this is wild.
Well, that's the
like, really? This whole time? That's the best. This is the first time you did that?
Well, that's the thing, Brian. He's been a dude all this time because patriarchy has been so prevalent for all that time. Why would you want to be a lady getting, being made into servitude? There's no point to that.
But you have 10,000 years of wisdom to play that to your advantage. And you were just like, 10,000 years of being dudes. You think I should be a lady for a minute? What if I feel boobs? Like my own boobs. That'd be sick. You know what I mean? It's like, really? This is the first time this occurred to you?
They even say at one point while he's in Heather Graham's body, or it's in Heather Graham's body, they say the future is female. So like he, there's an illusion. This is 2023.
You just got to this? Like,
no, it's 1993, Brian.
Whatever. So I'm not saying you go back to the 1600s and become a peasant woman, but like, if you have 10,000, I'm just saying 10,000 years of experience, and you can get into the court of the queen or something like that and get into the queen's body.
Right.
It's just like he got into Heather Graham's body and then like he like flicked his bean for the first time, and he was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You never did that in all these lifetimes?
And by all rights, it should have been, in Cleopatra at some point.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Queen Elizabeth, some shit like that.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm just kind of fucking with you, but the idea is it should either be as simple as like, this is Ephraim Waite's first time trying to transfer a body. So like Ephraim Waite spent all his time and money to collect these, sacred texts to find the one.
He had to figure out this esoteric solution to his problem of dying of cancer.
Right. And then he figures it out and then transfers to Asa's, and then, just on a whim transfers to Heather Graham's body. But if it's this old god that's been doing it for a long time, and Ephraim really never had a personality of his own or anything, he was just taken over by the demon, and then the demon, just didn't want to die in that body. Fine. But it should feel more mundane when he jumps into a woman's body, because he should have been everything under the sun at this point. You
would think so.
Yeah, he should have been like, a white guy. He should have been like a Native American two-soul. He should have been just like every possible. He should have been a furry, a real early furry.
Oh hell yeah, yeah. Something like at this point you would have think that you would have done every, wacky, kinky, wild shit under the sun.
Yeah. And then like
you would have done Vince McMahon shitting on people.
Right. Yeah. You've done the scat stuff. You've done threesomes, foursums, eightsums.
You've been Laurinaitis already at this point. Like
you've done the shunting. But like,
sorry, just bringing some topical wrestling news in the mix. I just listened to a podcast that read the whole complaint of the Vince McMahon lawsuit. I was like, oh my God. Like I heard all of it just through memes, but I didn't know the whole thing. And then I listened to a podcast and like read the whole thing. I was like, Jesus Christ. So that's very top of mind for me right now.
Just to hold on that for a second. Like when I saw that like complaint break on Twitter, like the headline I read was insane, because it was like Vince McMahon accused of more sexual allegations. I was like, oh, of course he was. Like he's the number one pervert. And then it says, from 2021 and 2022. I was like, holy fuck. Like
he's still at it.
Yeah. It's like, that's 2 years ago.
Well, then all the dildos named after the wrestlers, and like it just was really was a lot, guys. It was a lot.
And then you have to think back to all the years when he would be in his prime. It's just all the wild shit he's probably done then that people are probably dead to not testify against him.
This is tail end of his perversity.
Yeah.
We'll learn 50 years from now that Vince McMahon was fucking Caligula. Like he was just like
he's the Caligula of carnies is what he is.
Yeah. He's the worst person that ever lived.
This is the one thing we can move on after this, but it's just like the one thing that clicked in my brain finally is like all of these powerful people have been associated with Epstein, including Trump, and Trump was associated with Vince McMahon. So I was like, why has Vince never been associated with Epstein? And that's because Vince is his own Epstein. Like if you're Samuel Walton, you don't shop at Target.
He doesn't need it. He need to go to the island.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam Walton's not going to Target.
Yeah.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. He's got his own fucking island, Anyway, guys, that's a Lovecraftian fucking horror story. We could tell some fanfic of Lovecraftian fanfic of Vince McMahon.
Vince McMahon might be possessed by the demon from this movie.
He could be. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm saying, I'm putting a headline out there. So here we are. I do want to fast forward a little bit because I the best part of the movie is the final sequence here. So this is like what I said, it becomes Shell Game the movie, because the entity that is in Ephraim jumps to Asa, who then jumps to Dr. Derby, Heather Graham's character, then to her husband for a minute, and then ultimately to Dr. Upton, who's Barbara Crampton. And you get this big classic shoot them, they're the bad guy. No, they're the bad guy and they took my body. And and they're like, there's just this poor character, and I don't even know, I didn't look up what his name was, what the character's name was, or what the performer's name is, but he plays heavily into a very pivotal scene in the movie. Let's see if we can find him here.
I believe his name's Hunter Womack, and he plays Mace Jr.
Mace. Yeah. So Mace is he reminded me so much, and I didn't look into this. You might have come across it. This sequence happens in this, like, what looks like a basement hallway of a hospital near the morgue. Is that the same hallway from Reanimator when they trick the guard into letting them into the morgue, into the body storage area? It really looks like that same spot, because I know that I did see just like a really offhanded blurb of saying that they were very painstakingly tried to replicate some of the scenes, classic Stuart Gordon shots and scene locations and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think they just did a really good job of location scouting. Like, I didn't see anything that said that they were actually on the original sets, because I feel like that's something you include in the marketing of, like, hey, we're back in, like, the Reanimator sets and stuff like that. But, like, you're right, it does look very, very similar. Of, like, this looks like the basement from Reanimator.
Yeah. Anyway, they have this the security guard Mace. He's like, he's got his gun out, and Barbara Crampton is like, shoot Heather Graham's character. Well, then Heather Graham's character ends up getting the gun, and then at this point, let me get this straight. Heather Graham, so Dr. Derby, has been put into Asa's body, and Asa ends up getting pushed out the window, gets stabbed in the neck. When they do this thing earlier in the movie where they do a little sexy situation near the window, and it's like the sexy, hey, you might fall out the window. Well, then she ends up stabbing him, throwing him out the window. He falls. They want to trap Ephraim's mind, or whatever the entity is, into Ace's body and then kill him. When she goes down to kill this, and this is also the part that I frankly wasn't crazy about. She runs down. He's apparently still alive. She's like, I got to destroy his brain. So she backs into him with the car a bunch of times. And you do get this cool little scene of, like, you see it through the, backup camera, and she mashes them all up and then stabs them a bunch. And then the cops show up, and you're like, oh, she sacrificed herself. Well, this isn't over at this point, but she sacrificed herself to, because she's going to end up now being in jail or in a mental institution or whatever, to lock the entity in Asa's body by killing Asa. Well, then you quickly learn he's not dead, and the entity's still alive, and the entity starts jumping around, which pisses me off because she fucked him up. Mm-hmm. And why didn't it just, like, you could have come up with a more creative way of how Ephraim, or the entity, whatever, got out of Ace's body right before it died. But instead, they're like, no, just didn't die. So I know this was in service of this climactic scene where Heather Graham's character basically shoots. It's Heather Graham actually playing Asa's character. It's Heather Graham playing Asa, shooting Heather Graham, who is in Asa's body, in the head.
Yeah.
Like, to put them out of their misery because the body's so fucked up and they're in so much pain. But then Ephraim is now in Barbara Crampton's body. Mm-hmm. And then ultimately she gets trapped in there, and you have Barbara Crampton's ends up in Heather Graham's body, locked in the asylum, while Ephraim escapes in Barbara Crampton's body.
Yeah.
Like, that's where we end. So like I said, it's the shell game situation. But I guess you had to keep Heather Graham alive up until that point. But why did she have to be in Ace's body? I don't know. Could have jumped from somebody else.
Yeah.
It just seems too easy to jump. The idea of jumping seems too easy for that to be the only option. You know what I mean?
I think maybe they could have done a little more with the suspense of the shell game, because so Asa's body with Ephraim's spirit is on the morgue slab, and Heather Graham, who is still Heather Graham, is in the asylum room talking with Barbara Crampton. And from everything we've seen so far, you have to be close when you utter the words. So like they're
well, no, they did it over the phone before,
but still she heard it. That's why I mean.
She heard it. She heard it.
You have to be able to hear it. So like you either have to be close or you have to call it in. So this is where I'm kind of like, I don't love it, especially because I kind of feel like they waste the actor who plays the morgue worker. His name's Graham Skipper. He's been in a lot of shit recently. But he was one of the boyfriends who got killed in Christmas Bloody Christmas. He's in Scare Package 2 as Dwight, which is such a funny fucking role. Like if you haven't seen Scare Package 2, Graham as Dwight is funny. Amazing. He's also in this movie called The Leech, which is pretty good as well. So check all that out. But I feel like they should have taken Graham Skipper and had like Ace's body whisper it to him, because Ace's body like revives in front of the morgue worker and scares him. He should have like done it in Graham's ear, and then Graham like that you get more of a complicated shell game, because then it turns into almost like that movie Fallen with Denzel Washington, and it becomes who in the staff is actually Ephraim, as he's like swapping bodies to get back to Heather Graham so he can do it one more time to be permanently Heather Graham. Yeah.
Dan just asked a question in the chat, which I'm trying to, like, it's making me second guess. I know they have to say it 3 times. There's like some sort of occult prayer, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a ritual. Little incantation that they have to say, right? Was there a mirror component to it?
No, I think Dan's just kind of being funny. But you don't have to say it in a mirror.
Is he? Okay. He's just okay. Yeah. I was going to say, did I miss that? Was there a little mirror comparison? Sarcasm goes over my head sometimes. Sorry. Yeah. Because I was like, wait, was there a mirror when they were in the basement? But yeah, why was he able to jump real quick to another body, just waking up in the morgue, when before there had to be this whole big production to do it via the telephone. Yeah.
Well, see, I think that's just part of like the entity toying with because like,
let's just say, was that just a flight of fancy then? The telephone.
Yeah. Cause like there was no urgency for the entity. Cause like there wasn't much urgency from Ephraim jumping to Asa. When it's Asa jumping to Heather Graham, it's, like he's just toying with her, because he gets her once, and then he kind of knows that like, well, it's one of those things, like once you initiate the kind of ritual, you only got to hit it 2 more times. I got all the time in the world. I'm a 22-year-old young buff kid. I got all the time in the world to get this lady if I want her. So so I guess that's the thing, is like it felt like there was more of a sense of urgency. Yeah. Well, but that's why I'm saying it should have been more urgent when his body is like completely trashed on the morgue slab. It should have been super urgent for him to just hit the morgue worker with it one time, just to hit it one time. And then we already know, because they explained in the lore, if you hit it one time, it doesn't last that long. But you hit it one time to the morgue worker, then you hit it one time to hit Mace, and then Mace hits Heather Graham to get back 3 times into her body. Yeah. And then he's Heather Graham for the rest of the time. And then they can play more shell game with Barbara. Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'm picking at this a little bit because I think some of the rules are really loose and frankly kind of flimsy. Yeah. But this is still the best part of the movie.
And I would have just loved to have seen some stickier business happen earlier. You know what I mean? Like, instead of the whole, which actually wasn't that bad of a scene. I mean, it was creepy and it was uncomfortable, but that's okay. That's what I want this movie to be. Like, I saw some people when I was like on reviews being like, the sex scene with Asa, and Dr. Derby was like really uncomfortable and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's fucking what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Right. That was what they were going for.
Like, it's such a weird, again, it's a film that I don't want to sound like a weird dumb old boomer and say shit like, you can't make films like, because obviously they did make this film, but like, it's not, it's a film that goes against like current tastes so much, because
very much so. Yeah.
There's so much problematic sex in this. It's not just that there's weird sex. It's all problematic sex. And it's like the scene where Asa has taken over Heather Graham's body and then bones out her husband. And like her husband in this film is basically just eye candy meat, like the film is filmed definitely with, kind of male gaze intention about Heather Graham, but also it also treats dudes like meat as well. Cause dudes are like all shirts off. It's pretty, I mean, I don't think it's David Duchovny, sleaze of like, I just want to get a bunch of boys' shirts off, but it is.
No, it's not that, but
it is just like, we're going to film these dudes like meat. We're going to treat them like meat, and like, that's what she does. We're going to
get Wish.com, Joe Manganiello, and put him on here. And, he's just, I mean, literally all he does is take abuse the entire movie.
Yeah.
He plays no other character. He has no other character traits besides just to take abuse from Heather Graham's character.
Right.
This is sleazy, uncomfortable, sexual horror type of thing. You know what I mean? So that made people uncomfortable. I think the age difference also made people uncomfortable with like the sex scene. Cause like literally Heather Graham is like in her mid 50s and Judah Lewis is like in his early 20s.
Yeah.
So I think that's a little bit part of it, but
also
acting, guys, chill out.
Yeah.
But
one, it's acting. Two, it's also like, I don't want to say the point of the story, but it is the evolution of the story, because in the original Lovecraft, I don't think it's necessarily like, I'm pretty sure it's not about the sex at all. Like,
no, I don't think there's any sexual.
Yeah, like Lovecraft.
Like, I mean, some undertones, but I don't. So Lovecraft was a prude, for the most part.
Yeah, Lovecraft was basically asexual. he should have been. Like he.
Yeah, well, he was a weird. He was a weird xenophobic. Like he would be a weird alt-right YouTuber if he lived nowadays.
Yeah, he would be such an just an incel gooner, just sitting around, just like jacking off the e-girls on Instagram. But
100%, he would be so into fucking
and then calling them fat
hentai.
Yeah, but like
but he's a problematic guy.
Yeah, but like that's the evolution of this film is like They gender swapped all the roles. So like in the original Lovecraft story, Barbara Crampton and Heather Graham's roles were both male. And it was the wife who was basically getting abused from Dr. Derby. So like they swap all that, and then they turn all of these kind of classic things that we assume with like 90s, horniness of like women are just treated like meat, and men can have sex with women, half their age. So like, it does all that same stuff, but it just gender swaps it in this film. Like it doesn't make it not problematic, but also it also just kind of I don't know, evens the field in a way. It's just like, we're doing all those tropes, and we're doing it through the lens of like, hey, women can do it too. It's fine. Like it's gross, but it's fine.
I think Heather Graham is a good casting decision for that as well, because I think people think of her as like a little bit more of, she tends to play very kind of happy-go-lucky type of characters. And in this instance, it's, very much the opposite. So I think you give her a little bit more latitude in that way. But I think my ultimate qualm with this movie, and like I said, I like it. I like it. I thought it was really unique. That above all, I'm going to like a movie or not like a movie is if it feels unique and it feels like something I've not seen before. But I just felt like it left a lot on the table, and from a cosmic horror perspective. And I thought it was going to be more pure horror and less erotic thriller, which if I'd have came into the film under the right pretense, I might have given it a little bit more leeway there too. But I think the other thing to consider is like there are long stretches of this movie. Long might be strong, but there are stretches of this movie that just are fucking boring too.
Yeah, I think that's more front loaded than you're perhaps remembering. It's not really that boring after things get going. Once you get to the scene where Asa has swapped with Ephraim and he cuts Ephraim's head off, this movie is off the rails, because that's it. Honestly, you're exactly right. Up until that, I was just like, come on, get something going. And I'm a slow burn guy. Like, I like slow burn. Yeah. But whenever you have this setting, if it's, I always use this example. This movie sticks in my head for whatever reason, because it has some like very jarring scenes and sequences. But I don't know if you remember the movie Hagazusa from like maybe 20. I didn't see it.
2019. It is a slow burn, big droning score, very little dialogue, a classic slow burn. And then it goes to some wacky places.
Sure.
But like that movie feels like it earns that because it's set in the fucking medieval, almost dark ages type of thing. Yeah. So it's just like this movie is set. This is supposed to be a low budget 90s erotic thriller. Like, give me some silliness, give me some wackiness, like do some fun, make it funny, make it I'm not saying make it, Seventh Curse where it's just, just chaos from the first second, but just like keep me interested until the craziness happens. Yeah. And I feel like they just didn't.
Yeah. There's not much in the way of comedy. Like, I mean, there's things you can laugh at for just like their pure silliness. Like, again, the scene where he cuts his head off, there is so much blood for like, it's too much blood. There's too much blood.
It's great though. It's a great fucking sequence.
And like, you can laugh at that just from like the standpoint of like, that's so silly that there's so much blood. And then his head is fucking talking at the end. Like, that's a crazy thing to do. So like, you can laugh at that. And like, that gets you to perk up. Cause I mean, again, like we were saying, it's a little slow to get started. But even the scene where she's having the sex dream about Asa going down on her, and then he turns into Bruce Davison and dumps her out the window, and then there's the fucking wacky brain tentacles saxophone going on in the background as she falls out the window. I mean, I don't know, that rules. I don't know. It's just
it was good. It was good.
It's just the whole package for me hits exactly what this movie should look like, even if it is slow, even if there are points where like, again, you mentioned Wish.com Joe Manganiello. Like, I'm sure that guy can act because he's in a lot of stuff. He's a character actor in a lot of stuff. He plays a lot of sheriffs. But in this, he does. In this film, he has so little nothing to do, but that's exactly what a film like this would do, is just make a super one-dimensional, all you are is like a sex partner. That's all you are in this film. And like,
your beefcake.
Yeah. So like, I don't know. I like this film, and the fact that it's just a total throwback, and they nailed all the little bits. Even if those bits are bad, they nailed them. So yeah. The only thing I would change is just do more shell game at the end. That's all.
Yeah, I suppose so. I should watch this movie again. I think I do suspect that I'll like it more upon second watch. But when I come in thinking cosmic horror, I think my expectations were a little wild. There's some. I think also like. I don't know why there's a double standard here, because we were talking about The Mist last week. or 2 weeks ago, right? 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And there's some really god awful CGI. Now that was in 2007.
Yeah.
There's some god awful CGI in that, and it was totally acceptable to me. There's some god awful CGI in this that I was just like, that threw me out. I was doing psychedelics, so that maybe that was setting things for a wild place. But you get the idea. Like, I don't know. I wanted this movie to be more based on how much it was hyped up and the Lovecraft thing and everything. And then it just took me in a different direction. So I like it for what it is. Maybe seeing it through a different lens will help me upon the second watching. But yeah, overall fun movie. Absolutely worth a watch. Streaming on Shudder if you've got a Shudder subscription, so you can so you don't have to pay for it outside of your subscription. So go fucking check it out, guys. Any final thoughts, any wrap up, anything you're like, I wish I could see, or hey, if they do something similar in this vein in the future, would love to see?
I mean, I don't know. I think this is kind of just like a nice like closing on the book of like Stuart Gordon's legacy. And I think I guess we're kind of pretty good with where this stands. I did want to mention back to filming locations. Reanimator was filmed pretty much all in Los Angeles, and this film was filmed in Jackson, Mississippi. So so it probably isn't the same basement that we were talking about. The other thing I wanted to mention we didn't bring up is the writer for this film is Dennis Paoli, and Dennis basically wrote all of Stuart Gordon's other films. So he wrote Reanimator. He ran
all the screenplays for he was the screenplay guy for Reanimator and for The Beyond too, right?
Yeah, and From Beyond and Dagon.
And Dagon too. Okay. Yeah. So he's
and Castle Freak.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, so like so again, with Brian Yuzna producing and Dennis writing, it's still very, very much a Stuart Gordon tribute. I think they pull it off. I enjoy it. I was trying to figure out, because I wrote in on our Patreon, I had seen this movie like way before it came to Shudder, even like when it was still on pay platforms. I was trying to figure out when I actually wrote about this film, but like even back then I was like, you guys gotta watch this movie.
Maybe I just want some Jeffrey Combs. I'm a sucker. We know this. You are the production side a sucker for. I'm a sucker for characters, and I just needed me some Jeffrey Combs. As much as I liked Heather Graham in this, I feel like she felt a little out of place. Put Barbara Crampton in the main character role. Give me some Jeffrey Combs. Now it feels more like Stuart Gordon. Not that you have to have those people,
right?
But something about the idea of having like the star power of Heather Graham maybe is what threw me for a loop. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. She just didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I was going to.
Yeah, she definitely does feel like an odd choice. Just because I don't know what her connection to Stuart Gordon is, but the other side of that is we're talking about how like her role before this film a lot of the times is like, Roller Girl or the Austin Powers films. She was treated basically like as eye candy and like male gaze eye candy. Whereas like this film, she gets to turn it around and she's much more like in control. Like she still is like hot in this film and is doing hot stuff.
Yeah.
But
you see her boobs and all that stuff, which listen, I'm not complaining about, but she does a great job.
Yeah.
She does a great job. I have absolutely no issue with it. It's just, it is a bold casting decision.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. It's bold, but it lands. Speaking of Jeffrey Combs, if you want to see him doing some great acting, that Onyx, whatever, and the fortuitousness, whatever the fuck the name of that movie is, it's so hard to remember. Now,
what were those words that you said?
Now I'm being an old man. Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls is the film.
Oh, yeah. Talisman of Soul. I remember. Okay.
Jeffrey Combs.
What is,
Jeffrey Combs is the bad guy in that. He fucking rules so hard. He's so good in that movie.
Oh, he's so great. I'll watch anything with him. I have I'm a big Reanimator fan, and I have a lot of Reanimator things, action figures and fucking shirts and stuff like that. And my kids, we're reading the Harry Potter series right now. So we're working our way through all the books, kind of reading before bedtime. My kids, whenever they see anything Herbert West, they call him Harry Potter. So they get him confused with Harry Potter quite often because of the I guess the glasses. I don't know. But all right, guys, that was Suitable Flesh from 20 and 23. Steve, do you want to talk about what we're going to do for the next minisode, or do you want to wait and make it a surprise?
I think I don't know. I'm always all in the fence of like announcing what we're doing, just because I hate when things fall out. Things shouldn't fall out. We have a guest supposedly confirmed, but I hate when things fall apart. So because I don't want to disappoint the audience. But
we should probably try to get. We don't reach out to guests very often.
Yeah, we're very lazy that way.
I would say. Yeah. I'm saying right now, 95, pretty much every guest we've ever had has reached out to us.
Yeah.
Or we have ended up talking to in the DMs and said, "Hey, do you want to come on the podcast?"
Right.
The only person who I ever actually reached out to and said, "We would love to have you on the podcast if you're interested," is Barbara Crampton. She did not respond, justifiably so. There is literally no reason why she should. But if you have somebody who's like, "Hey, I have a contact with this person," or "We should reach out to this person," and listen, we're not saying, Heather Graham here or something like that, but people who you think would guest on a podcast who are fans of the genre and like to talk about the genre and nerd out and stuff like that. We always love those connections because, again, we are lazy and pretty much only have guests who fall into our hands.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to that because that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Because Ken Arnold reached out to us and he's like, "Hey, you should check out the film I did in 2016, The Night Watchman." I watched it. It's a lot of fun. Like it's just kind of it's a throwback comedy. In that there's just like a lot of dick and fart jokes, and it feels like, I'm trying to think of a good, I don't know why I keep thinking Observe and Report, because it's also just security guards, but it's like, there's buddy cop stuff, but also there's like the hazing the new guy. So it's like, it's like Waiting, but with clown vampires.
It's like Waiting, but with clown vampires.
Yeah.
I mean, I was sold on Waiting. I genuinely love that movie.
Yeah.
Because when you were describing, I was like, is this Super Troopers-y?
Yeah. It's also like Super Troopers. Yeah.
Which I love too. Waiting is underrated. That used to get some network playtime, but then all the crew jokes would get pulled out because the funniest thing about that movie, and this is some real early 2000s shit, is showing people your privates.
Yeah.
Which turns out Louis C.K. got into a bunch of trouble with
Can't do that.
But I worked when that movie came out, I think, and Waiting was at the time or right around the time I worked at Bob Evans.
Oh God.
Like in high school. And so it just really hit with people who worked in the service industry.
Yeah.
It was like a phenom. Everyone talked about it. Loved that movie. Thought how funny it was. Cause it was, I mean, that's what working in the service industry in your teens and 20s is. Everybody's just fucking each other. Everyone's just high as fuck. And everyone is just goofing off and being assholes and doing terrible things to people's food. Like that's what it is. So, no, that sounds fun. I'm really excited to talk to him and to watch the movie. I haven't watched it yet. So join us on that next minisode for it.
Yeah, everybody can watch The Night Watchman. It's on Tubi. He's also in a small part in Satanic Hispanics, that we can talk a little bit about. And also, last night at Terrace Lanes. So you can go back to that episode. Yep. But yeah, hopefully we'll talk to Ken Arnold next episode.
Yeah. Hey guys, great opportunity to join the Patreon so you can get on the Discord and jump on with Mr. Arnold as we discuss his movies and ask him questions and those types of guest episodes. It's really fun. It's particularly fun to have people in the Discord to ask questions and that sort of stuff. And also the guests always really appreciate that too. So if you're on the fence and you're thinking, hey, I might join that Patreon. I've been wanting to do it, but I just didn't click on that whole thing. Go over to our social medias. Let's go to Instagram, for example. Click on our link tree. Click on Patreon. Sign up. $5 a month. You can jump on there. Join us on the Discord. And you get a bonus podcast and all that cool stuff. So last plug of the night, boys. Anything else I'm forgetting? If you got clown suggestions.
Yeah. If you got clown suggestions, send your clown suggestions.
What did we call it already? What's going to be the great clown caper March 2024? What did we call it?
Clown. We called it Clownomania. No. We called it March Clownness. It's a work in progress.
You called it that.
Yeah.
You came up with a better one after that though.
Yeah, I called it Clownmania. I called it Clownmania because we were talking wrestling.
Clownmania, March Clownmania. Yeah, you're right. March Clownmania. Yeah, that's pretty good. But if you got a better name, if you got clown suggestions, please and thank you.
Yeah, send your clown suggestions.
Actually, the gentleman we were just talking about a second ago, Graham Skipper.
Yeah, he's in a clown movie.
He's in a clown movie, which I'm 100% going to watch. It is a relatively recent one. 2016, not that recent, but 2016, Space Clown.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ! You call a movie anything close to that, I'm watching it. Space Clown?
Space Clown?
Yeah, I'm fucking watching Space Clown. You think I'm not watching Space Clown? I'm watching Space Clown.
I'm down for Space Clown.
I'm down with the clown, especially if he's in space.
So, just kind of to close the episode out, I wanted to jump back to something we were talking about before. We talked Diagnosis Murder last episode.
Oh, yeah.
And you talked about how, like, you threw out an episode that was absolutely insane.
Did you watch? You watched that.
I watched that episode. I watched that episode. Got me completely hooked. I'm in for that show. So it's so funny. I started jumping around on the Pluto app and watching other episodes. I watched one that based just off the episode's name alone. It's in season 2. It's called the Bela Lugosi Blues.
Oh hell yeah!
It's more insane, I think. And then after that one, I was just like, you know what? I just got to start the entire series from the beginning. So I found an even more insane episode. It's season 1, and it's the 4th fucking episode.
So I'm so happy that because I haven't watched any in season 1, and I'm so happy that it starts that bonkers.
Yeah, it starts like not every episode is insane, but there are insane fucking episodes, and it goes to the 4th episode. The 4th episode is called The Inheritance of Death, and it is Dick Van Dyke doing a full-on nutty professor to the Clumps, in which he plays...
Like he's in a fat suit?
No, he plays 4 different fucking roles outside of the one he usually plays. He plays...
This guys... This show, it's so good. It's so good.
He plays like an entire family that's like connected to him. Like his character, Mark Sloan, has this whole cadre of rich cousins that live in a mansion together, and he plays all of them. He plays all of them.
Oh yes, please.
It is and thank you. Fucking bonkers. This goddamn show. Like not every episode is crazy, but.
Dick Van Dyke is such a treasure because he is he still alive? I feel like he's still alive.
Yeah, he's like 95, 96.
100 years old.
Yeah.
Really. And he is just, speaking of clowns, this man's down to clown because I really get the feeling they gave him, because he's the big name in the show, like obviously by far. And I feel like they just gave him carte blanche to just do whatever he likes. And this is what he likes. He's like, yeah, I'll play 4 characters.
Yeah.
Like just kookiness.
There's so many episodes where he is roller skating or doing soft shoe or doing pratfalls. He's doing just Dick Van Dyke stuff that has like it feels completely unconnected to the character, but he forced it into the character. He's just like, yeah, I like doing Dick Van Dyke stuff, so I'm going to keep doing Dick Van Dyke stuff on this show too.
Yeah, I'm going to have a cane and I'm going to have a fucking little, straw, like little hat. And I'm just going to do some jigs.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking Dick Van Dyke. I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yeah. It's such an insane show. Like, I think the episode you showed me is so off the fucking walls because there's like crazy line deliveries that make no sense.
Oh my God. What's her name? The one woman, I looked up her name and I don't remember it, but I think she ended up being a pretty big character on, I want to say Law and Order. Her and the performer who plays her sister, the line deliveries are out of this world in that episode. That's the season 5 episode that I talked about. Yeah. But did you watch the Baby Boomers too?
No, I didn't get to that one because I just
you're gonna like that.
It just
now you're starting from the beginning.
Yeah, I just started from the beginning. I just said fuck it, and I went from the beginning. So like it'll be a while before I get back up to there because I wanted to see if it was a thing of like, does the show just degrade into madness? Because it feels like there's certain directors that understand the show's supposed to be a comedy and they're, and sometimes the episodes are comedic. There's always like little bits, like they're doing little bits and skits for no reason in a lot of episodes. But like there's one episode I was watching where like a priest builds a fucking bomb. Like, it's just putting shit together.
I only watched season like 5 and 6 or 4 and 5, and not even all of them. Just those were all the episodes I watched were from those seasons because that's where it's running on a cable channel somewhere that is carried, not cable, but Fubo. So I have like Fubo Live TV, and it's running on one of those channels, and that's where we found it. And so we were just watching it live as where there are in the franchise. Or in the series. So I have not went back to Pluto and started from season 1, but I'm so excited to learn that the first season is as bonkers as the rest of them.
Yeah. And then there's just like a lot of guest stars that you go, oh, wow. Because like I've seen Betty White, Dom DeLuise, and
I love Dom DeLuise.
What was the name of the mom from That 70s Show? Deborah Rupp.
Yeah, she's great too.
Yeah.
She's really funny. I can only imagine in that time frame what kind of great fucking cameos they can get on there.
Yeah.
Man, Dom DeLuise cracks me up. Anyway, guys, here's what you should do. Do yourself a favor. Do some drugs, right? Do some weed, maybe do some psychedelics if you're feeling froggy. Watch yourself just as you're getting up to speed, right? Watch yourself Punisher Warzone. Then, as a palate cleanser, just fade into like 3 to 4 episodes of Diagnosis Murder while eating like a whole box of like Cocoa Puffs or something. You're in for a treat, guys. This is going to be your Saturday night is set.
Yeah.
Set in stone.
Maybe start yourself a series of doing Diagnosis Ketamine and just watching ketamine or watching Diagnosis Murder on ketamine.
Guys, you want to get down a K-hole, a Diagnosis K-hole? Do it, you guys. Live your life. We're all going to be. Listen, this is what I like to say. I say it to myself. I say it to my friends, my family, my coworkers. When I'm really stressed out, I take a lot of solace in this. I say, guys, don't forget, someday worms are going to eat your eyes. And then that makes me feel better. None of this matters. Do ketamine. Worms are going to eat your eyes. All right, guys. On that note, for the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
And I'm the Columbo reference I forgot to bring up that happened in Suitable Flesh.
All right. See you later. See you in the K-hole, boys.
Bye.
Bye.